Hello, this is Renee Hahn, your Naples real estate expert, and today I want to talk about why pay for a realtor. In today's world, it's easy to believe you can do almost anything yourself. You can get online and book travel, you can research medical symptoms, do home improvement projects, and even buy or sell your home online. So naturally, some people wonder, why should I pay for a realtor? And you know what? It's a fair question. Real estate commission can feel like a big chunk of money. But like any other professional service, whether it's hiring an attorney, an accountant, or a contractor, there's always a trade-off between doing it yourself and bringing in an expert. And real estate's no different. The key is to hire a real estate professional who adds value and delivers results. After all, when you think about how much money is invested in your real estate, whether it's purchasing or selling, it's a significant amount of money. So the fact that somebody's going to take on the responsibility to make sure that your asset is protected and your interests are looked out for, that's also an investment. In reality, a great realtor really doesn't cost you extra money. They may, in fact, help you save money, time, stress, and in many cases, regret. So what I want to do is break down what you're actually getting when you hire the right real estate professional. Let's start with pricing expertise. So whether you're buying or selling, pricing is everything. You price it too high and a home sits on the market if you're selling it. You price it too low, money is left on the table. A good realtor understands the local market trends, neighborhood nuances, and recent sales, and uses that data to guide you on a price that's strategic, not emotional or wishful. So many times, sellers may have a general idea of what something's worth, but very rarely do I find them spot on for it. And anytime I can think of in the history of real estate that I've been involved, which is over a decade, every time a seller pushes for a higher price that's not grounded, we end up in a worse situation. We either have to drop the price or we end up underselling it in the end, when in fact you'd find that if you priced it right to begin with, you may actually get more money out of it. Not only that, but you will end up with better terms in other areas as well. So in my business, having the background that I do in corporate America, and in particular, the match between the strategic work I did and the negotiating work I did and the analytical work I did in corporate America, my price predictions tend to be pretty spot on. Now, if you're in a really fluid environment where prices are moving and they're not stable, this becomes harder, and no matter how analytical I am, it can be harder to predict that. But again, even in those environments, my prediction of price and value ends up being pretty spot on historically, which means that my listings tend to sell for better prices and oftentimes under better circumstances. So pricing is absolutely critical. The other one is negotiating skills. You know, I used to negotiate $1 million mergers and acquisition deals, $1 billion sometimes, million more often. And real estate deals are full of negotiation. Prices, closing costs, repairs, contingencies, move-in dates, and more. I start that negotiation process long before we're talking about a contract, because a skilled realtor knows how to navigate tricky conversations and protect your interests while you're not necessarily turning off the other side, which is another risk. It's not just about getting the best deal, it's about getting the deal done right. And that's another area that I can tell you. I've seen agents come over the top and they just think it's about getting the price as low as they can, and then they burn the deal out and they end up with upset clients on either side of that. Well, that's true. So it's about finding those balancing points and having enough finesse to know when to pull back and when to push hard. Negotiating is not for everyone, and it's an area that I often find people think they're much better at it than they are. There's also the legal and contractual knowledge. Now, I am not, as a real estate professional, an attorney. I don't claim to be, and I cannot behave as one. But real estate transactions are full of binding contracts and timelines, missing deadlines, misunderstanding a clause, or skipping a disclosure, and you could find yourself in hot water, legally and financially. And so you want someone who understands the contracts intimately, knows which ones to use, knows which amendments and addendums to use, what language to put in. Again, it's not behaving like a attorney, but it is behaving like a really knowledgeable, well-versed real estate agent. So realtors that know their stuff can stay on top of every deadline and document to help you stay protected and in compliance. And that's another one. You'd hate to get halfway down the pipe and thinking you're getting close to closing, and you could be on either side of the deal and find that the contract gets canceled because you're in breach of it, because you didn't know any better. So it's absolutely critical not only to get the home under contract, but to keep it under contract if in fact that's what you're intending and wanting to do. Local market insight. Online searches can tell you a lot, but they can't tell you everything. So I tell people all the time, if you're a buyer and you're just looking online, I'll have people send me homes and I'll say, yes, you're right, that looks beautiful, but here's why it does not align with what you're looking for. And that's not unusual. We have so much at our hands, at the tip of our fingers, and easily accessible through resources like Zillow and other online resources. But it's really, really important to have context. It's important to have someone that can listen to what you're looking for and understand how that may or may not match with what you're seeing online. And this is really important on the listing side too, because I will sometimes have people point out properties that they think are comparators, and if they don't know any better about what affects pricing and why one home may sell for different than another, you're using data that may not be as relevant, and that's really important. So it's important to know things about the communities, flood zones, HOA fees, what's included, what's not, and whether that what you think is an amazing deal backs up to a busy road or might not be the right home for you, and local insight can make or break your experience tremendously. There's also having things like access to trusted pros, whether that's mortgage brokers or inspectors during the process, or whether it's painters or electricians or plumbers. We've got a go-to list of trusted local professionals that instead of you guessing or Googling, you'll have a built-in network of reliable resources at your fingertips. And this is one of the things I pride myself on a lot, not just during the transaction, but I get calls all the time. I got a call this morning from a prior client asking me for my opinion and guidance on solar panels. And we had a really fruitful discussion that actually changed the course of where they were headed. And I don't make their decisions for them, but I provide data-based information so that they can make informed decisions. There's also the consideration of time and sanity saving, right? So coordinating showings, marketing a listing, vetting buyers, managing inspections, responding to offers, that can feel like a full-time job, and your real estate professional takes that stress off your plate and handles the day-to-day. It really keeps the transaction moving smoothly from start to finish. And let's not forget that when you're talking about marketing a listing, oh my gosh, it's not just about posting a listing, folks. And I'm sorry to say, a lot of real estate agents will just do it. They do what I call the 2 Ps, right? They actually 3 Ps. They'll take pictures of it, they'll post it, and then they'll pray that you get the right offer. In my book, I take a couple other Ps. I still do all those things, but I help you prepare the property to get the most out of your sale. I promote it like you wouldn't imagine through a lot of resources and tried and true marketing strategies that have benefited many, many people. Those things help you attract buyers that will eventually turn into people that will ultimately make offers on your property. So making sure that you don't just have somebody who can organize, but somebody that knows how to strategically market is huge. And even on the buying side, one of the things I get compliments on is that my processes are so buttoned up. I educate my buyers the entire way through so that they don't have surprises, so that they understand what's going on currently, what's coming, what's to be expected, where the loopholes are. All of that organization and process management is really, really important. There's also better financial outcomes. This is a big one. Homes sold with an agent consistently sell for more money than those sold for sale by owner. You don't have to take my word for it. Do the research. So people think they're going to save money on a commission by cutting out the commission. And what they don't realize, do you think buyers aren't aware that there is a certain amount of money baked into a home sale price to cover the commission and the work that the agents do? When that's gone, you better believe that buyers are expecting to share in some of that savings on their side. Now, I'm not saying you can't have a successful for sale by owner. It happens. But you better be aware of what the conditions are in the market right now and understand the value that an agent might bring. And you may sell it on your own, but what you might not realize is you might have left some money on the table. A lot of times the cost of my commission will be outweighed by the price advantage I get to my sellers in what they can get under contract and for what price. So likewise, buyers with representation are going to have stronger negotiating support. They're going to have better data they're making offer decisions by. They're going to understand that market value. And even after paying commission, many clients will walk away financially ahead. So you're not just paying for a transaction. You're not paying for someone to open doors, turn on lights. That's such a small part. Your realtor is really behaving as a project manager of sorts. They're taking on negotiator, consultant, cheerleader, and sometimes, I'm sorry to say, therapist. So you're not just paying for a few showings or listing something on MLS. Again, if you hire the right real estate agent, that's key. If you're uncomfortable with what you're paying, you're probably not hiring the right person. So you're investing in someone who knows how to get you from where you want to go to where you need to be with confidence, clarity, and a calmness. So you could certainly try to buy or sell a home on your own, and many of you may choose to, and that's fine. But when the stakes are high, and they are with real estate, having a skilled, ethical, and experienced professional in your corner can be the difference between a smooth, successful experience and a costly mistake. When it comes to one of the biggest financial decisions in your life, isn't it worth getting it right? I just would encourage you to really think about that. Don't be, as I would often say, a pound wise and a penny wise and a pound foolish. Almost got that one wrong. So make sure you're getting value for what you're paying for, but don't assume that there's no value to be given and that you can get it right on your own. And unfortunately, I've taken on some for sale by owners, and the reality is, by the time you bring the agent in, they've already got headwind, right? They've got time on market. People know your home hasn't sold. And now that agent coming in at the 11th hour to try to get it done for you isn't going to be nearly as effective as if you had just bit the bullet and hired the right person up front to get things done for you. Let's talk for a minute about commission, because sometimes there's some misconceptions about how commission works. And I want to make sure that it's very clear to everyone so that you understand what the agent is actually getting on either side of the deal. Let's start with the list side. So what you probably know, at least I hope you do, is when a commission rate is set, so the compensation is set at the beginning of the listing period, the listing agent and the seller determines what amount of commission, if any, the seller is willing to pay to help with the sale of their home. They will usually come up with a total commission rate that then gets split between the listing side and the buying side at a proportion that's agreed upon during that listing process. Now, on the list side, that money, that commission rate for the list side gets gobbled up by a number of things before it ever makes it down into the agent's pockets. First of all, that agent typically pays for things like the photos and videos of the property, any staging they're doing at the property if it's their own things. Sometimes the seller may pay for certain staging items if they're employing a third-party service. But agents like myself do complimentary staging with the items that I have oftentimes, and that usually is at my own cost. And then, of course, all the marketing associated with that property, whether it's property brochures, whether it's placing ads, magazine print, any of those things, open house costs. Then you've got the broker that takes their fees out of that commission. Then you've got all of the systems and memberships, if you will, that agent has to pay out on as a part of their ability to sell your home. Things like MLS system to get your property advertised so that it syndicates out to all of the downstream real estate systems. They have to pay neighbor membership fees to be able to do that in addition to the MLS system. They may have additional systems. For example, I have a web page, a dedicated web page for each of my listings that allows me to put much more into my marketing than MLS ever allows. Those are just a few examples. And then finally, after all of those costs come out, then the agent gets the net proceeds of what is left from the commission. Now, that's on the list side. So, again, keep in mind, people tend to react to what they see as an overall commission that's paying out for the sale of the home. But you can already see on the list side, there's a number of fees and costs that come out before it ever reaches the pocket of the listing agent. And then let's go to the buy side. So we already talked about the list side. On the buy side, those buyers agents get, again, a percentage. Now, that percentage could come from the listing side, it could come from the buyer side. It all depends on two things: what the listing or the seller is offering on buyer commission, and what the obligation is between the buyer and the buying agent. That will determine who actually foots this bill. But even if you look at the buying side commission, that agent is paying for gas for the showings. They have to make sure they have transportation to be able to take the buyers to showings. They also have broker fees that come out. Then they also have system fees and membership fees. So to be able to schedule appointments for your showings through showing time, to be able to use MLS to send you property alerts, to be able to practice real estate and join the Naples Area Board of Realtors. Those are all fees that come out. And then finally, once all of those costs come out, the remaining amount is due to the buyer agent. So when you put those things together, you've got a commission that you may be looking at. And I'm not going to speak percentages here because that's not legal, but assume that it's X percent. That X percent then gets diluted between the listing side, the buying side, all of these fees, activities, and costs. And then ultimately, a portion of it hits the listing agent and the buyer's agent. So I want to make sure that's really clear so that everybody understands how that works. Agents are not paid a salary. Agents have to earn their money, and they earn their money by selling and closing on homes. And then as a part of that, they pay all of these people and businesses and services that fall above the line that you see here. So if I can ever be that person for you, I would be honored to. I am happy to talk to you about the wins. Very few losses, but they happen. They're never surprises when it happens because of the way I work. But I'm always happy to help you, whether you're on the buying side or the selling side. Don't hesitate to reach out, 239-287-2576. Again, this is Renee Hahn, your Naples real estate expert. And you can also find me on yournaplesexpert.com. Thanks, and happy buying or selling. Have a wonderful day.